Hey everybody, today we're looking at solving single-step equations. So our goal for today is we're going to try and solve it to get the variable by itself. Or we can say solve for the variable. There's other ways to think of this, but our goal is that we're going to have an unknown, something like x, where x is our variable, and our goal is to figure out what does x equal to make our equation true. So maybe x equals 4, maybe x equals 10. That's our job today, is to figure out what number that is. Okay, and how we're going to go about doing this is we use something called the inverse operation in order to solve. So how we can kind of think about this process here is just like when we had our order of operations. Remember, we had PEMDAS, right? And this is how we simplified stuff. And we always started with parentheses, and then we did exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract, right? And this is kind of how we were, putting things together, trying to solve something. Right? Now when we're working with an equation, it's kind of like we're going in the opposite direction, right? And we're using the opposite of these things. So what I like to think about is now we're going to be taking something apart, all right? So if you're going to, let's say, change, the air filter in a car, right? You have to open up the hood first and then take the plastic caps off and get to your air filter, and you can take that out. Where now, when you go to install your air filter, you're doing everything in the opposite direction, right? You put it in, then you put your plastic stuff back, and then you close your hood. So the process is the same, but we're just working from a different direction. So again, what does it mean to be an inverse? An inverse is simply an opposite. So your inverse of addition would be subtraction, okay? The inverse of subtraction would be addition, all right? Inverse of multiplication would be, well, division. And then, of course, the inverse of division would be multiplication. So the idea is when we see these things, we can do the opposite to get those to cancel. So let's look at some examples, and this is what you're going to see in your assignment and your masteries for today. So right now we have an equation, well, x minus 7 equals 6. And so we're looking to see what value of x makes this equation true. So what value of x, if we take away 7, equals 6? And up until this point, when we've solved these, a lot of times we've been able just to kind of figure this out, right? But these are going to start getting a little bit more difficult, and we've got to have a process to how about going and solve these. So one thing we can do is we can use what's called our property of equalities to do our inverse equations, meaning that if I could add 7 to this side of my equation here, if I do this, minus 7 and 7 would cancel. These would go away, which is what I'm looking for. But now, this only works if I add 7 here and 7 here as well, because I have to make sure that my equations stay equal. So what would happen here? On the left-hand side, minus 7 plus 7 goes away, like we said, so all I have left is x. And then on the right side, I have 6 plus 7, which would be 13. And these are our steps for today. Another example here, again, we're trying to solve for our variable. So where is our variable? Well, w is our variable in this case. So I need to get that by itself. So I want to get rid of everything that's not a w from that side. So right now I got a minus 6. So to get rid of that, I could add 6 here, because this would cancel. That's the opposite of minus 6. And I can do anything I want to in the equation as long as I do it to both sides. So I'm going to add 6 to the other side of my equal sign. So you can kind of think of this as like a scale or a balancing point, right? So if I do that here, what's going to happen? On the left-hand side, I have 1 plus 6, which is 7. And on the right-hand side, minus 6 plus 6 go away, which was the whole idea. So I get w, or I could write this as w equals 7. All right. Here we go. Y plus 3.4 equals 0.5. Again, our goal is to get our variable by itself. So we're going to get rid of everything on the same side of our equation as our variable. So I need to move that 3.4. Right now it is a plus 3.4, so to do the opposite I would subtract 3.4 from both sides. Okay. If I do that then, these would cancel. I just have y on this side. And then 0.5 minus 3.4 would be negative 2.9, and that would be my answer. All right, taking a look at this one here. Now we got some fractions, and that's okay. We're going to solve it the same way. And we need to look at, all right, what operation are we doing to our variable? And the operation here, of course, would be multiply, right? This is 3/4 or negative 3/4 times n, all right? So we know that the opposite of multiplication would be division. So I could divide both sides by negative 3/4, right? Divide both sides by negative 3/4. Divide by negative 3/4. Okay. So very similar steps to what we do with addition and subtraction. So over here my 3/4 would go away, so I have n. And now over here I have 2 divided by negative 3/4. And here's where I'm going to have to use my rules for fractions, right? Instead of dividing by a fraction, we say that we multiply by our reciprocal. 2 I could rewrite as 2 over 1. So now if I multiply my tops together, I would get negative 8. My bottom numbers together, I would get 3. So my answer would be n equals negative 8/3. Alright, this one looks a little bit different, but we're going to solve it the same way. So again, where's our variable? And x is our variable. Now, we also have these things here, and this of course is a symbol pi, which we know we can treat as just a regular number. That's like 3.14. So if I'm going to solve for x, again I'm looking at what am I doing to x, and right now I'm multiplying by pi. So I could divide both sides by pi, and now what's going to happen? Well, over here on my left hand side, pi divided by pi would cancel, and I just have x. And now on this side here, I also have a pi and a pi, which would cancel, and I would get x equals 3 for my solution. Giving a shot at this one here. Right now we have y divided by 4. So I need to cancel the divide by, and again we know that we can do the inverse or the opposite, which would be multiply both sides by 4. Again, the reason why we're multiplying by 4 is if I have a 4 on top and a 4 on the bottom, those are going to cancel, and all I'm left with is y on the left-hand side. And then on the right, I have negative 7 times 4, which would be negative 28, which is my answer.